Welcome to the From Death2Life Podcast. I am your host, Mario and along with me is...
This is Kerry D'Artenzio. Hello, everybody. We're glad you're with us.
Yeah, guys, we are doing episode 12 today. And the topic or the question that one of our Death to Life users asked is, how do I live after losing someone I loved to suicide? And that's a pretty profound, pretty powerful question there.
Yeah, this one is making me really emotional. So I pray that we can do it justice and offer some helpful things, some hope
Mm.
to the many people who are living with suicide loss,
Right.
and they're left to figure out how do they keep going. So
Right. We do have a lot of people that reach out to us all the time that have lost loved ones, family members, dear friends to suicide. And I think this is going to benefit a lot of people this episode. So let's get going.
okay, where should we start?
I'll respond with a couple snippets and you chime in and add yours.
Okay.
I think one of the things that in grief in general, we don't do a very good job acknowledging that we're really truly hurting. We try to run away from it, and either it be someone that dies from suicide or doesn't die from suicide that dies another way. But acknowledge that pain. Acknowledge, man, I'm really going through.
Yeah.
I'm struggling big time.
It feels natural to avoid it because it hurts too much. Like, it hurts to feel that kind of pain. And so I think we naturally try to avoid pain. And so we will either distract or suppress. And I think what you're saying is do your best not to do that. Do your best to walk through that pain and feel it.
Right. Don't run away from it.
Hmm.
And when you have those thoughts of, man, I sure miss that person I loved. Don't run away from those feelings. Don't run away from those thoughts.
And let yourself cry. Like, tears are healing
Right.
to the body, to the mind, to the spirit.
Right.
Yeah, sitting in it.
I think one of the things that I've learned recently going through grief with the loss of Reese is this idea that you'll move on. Everything will be okay. Just give it some time. Give it 5 days. We've heard people say. And I think you need to run away from the idea of I need to move on. Acknowledge like the first part, acknowledge your pain. And then number two, don't feel like you have to move on. To be honest, you're never gonna get over this. And it really depends on who the individual was in your life. I mean, if it was a friend, that's one category of grief. If it was a parent, that's another category of grief. If it were a child, that's a whole other, part of grief that you're going to have to navigate and deal with. But I just think it's really, really critically important that, if the world says, hey, after days or maybe months or years, somebody says, are you back to normal? Are you okay? No, no. And I'm okay not being okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's important to say you will not always feel the intensity of pain that you
Right.
feel right now. You can heal. You absolutely can heal. You won't be the same person. You're not going to go back to who you were, but you can heal and you can make meaning. And I think knowing that you will heal if you decide to. I think one of the important things is to connect with other people who understand your unique, complex grief, because suicide loss is very unique because it's complex. There's elements to it beyond the loss of someone you loved so dearly. There's that, and we understand that the loss of someone we love so dearly and what that feels like. And with suicide, you add another dimension. There's a traumatic side to it. A lot of times suicide loss survivors found their loved one, and there's that traumatic part, and even if they
Mm,
didn't, they will have imagined what happened.
right.
Um, and so that is traumatic, and I would encourage anyone who's dealing with that part of the trauma to find treatment for traumatic loss because it is so unique.
Right.
And a lot of people report that their counselor doesn't know how to handle this type of loss. But there are people who do. So if you can seek out treatment for traumatic loss, I think that would be very helpful because that is unique
Well, and
situation.
it is, but it has to be a safe connection too.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I mean, if you can if you can come to us, I mean, if you're like, okay, maybe I can go to Death to Life, maybe they'll have some resources and materials, which we do. We have free resources for you. We're available 24/7. These will be individuals that understand what I'm going through. Maybe not necessarily to the extent of losing somebody to suicide, but feeling suicidal and can be an encouragement to you. So I think it's really important. You just don't go to anyone that, and maybe
Professional
right,
who's trained in traumatic loss.
right. And I
So,
think
like,
the
you can
first, it
find
can start with Death to
counselors.
Life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
And
can help you
I
find one
do
too.
wanna mention that too, that, especially in the months and year following a suicide loss, the survivors of that loss are, some say, up to 10 times more likely to also attempt suicide.
Right,
And so there's 2 things I wanna say about that. First, if you're a survivor, I want you to be aware that, like, you're at a higher risk. I think don't ignore your own thoughts of suicide.
right,
Like, tell a safe person, tell a safe professional, "I'm struggling with this." The other side of that is, like, knowing, like, that is normal.
right,
That is a normal thing that we see in suicide loss survivors, and it doesn't mean you're going to follow through.
right,
Because you're having those thoughts, those feelings of wanting to join your loved one, you are at a higher risk. So I would just say, if you are thinking about that, please, please, please reach out and get support because you are in a high risk category and it won't feel like that forever, but you do need and deserve extra care.
right. I mean, sometimes that grief is just unbearable. And if you don't keep it in check, it can do some serious damage to you in your mental health in particular. I don't I want you to elaborate a little bit that about getting better though. And not necessarily saying kind of when it goes back, it's the idea of moving on where everything's gonna go back to normal, everything's gonna be fine ultimately. And that's not necessarily true. I don't think and I don't think you mean that too. I think there's always gonna be, we heard the analogy the other day of the pebble in a shoe, the sharp pebble
Yeah,
in the shoe.
I don't think you ever are going to go back to the way you were. Like
Right.
you It's like a grenade going off. Like every part of your life
It's gonna be totally
is
different.
affected
Yeah.
and is different.
Right.
But I think it's really hopeful to me when people say, like, you won't ever be the same, but you can heal. You
Right.
can heal the wounds. You're not going to be the same. I don't think you will. Yeah, that's I think what I mean to say is, like, I don't think I will ever completely heal from our loss.
Right.
I don't think you but we're healing. Like, we are in the healing process until we get to heaven.
Right.
But, like, it's hopeful to me to say healing is possible, and I choose every day to move in the direction of healing. I will never be to the point where I am like, "Okay, now I'm done healing,"
Right.
until I get to heaven.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm glad you asked me to clarify, but if somebody told me, like, "You'll never heal," I'd be like, "That's
Right.
horrible news."
Right.
Um,
Your life is different. Like
your
Carrie
life
said,
is different. A
it's a
grenade went
grenade
off, and you gotta pick up the pieces,
and
um,
there's a new normal.
and just know, like, yeah, this is horrible,
Right.
absolutely horrible. I do wanna mention another, like, complexity of this type of loss is, guilt and blame.
Right. Huge.
Um
That's a huge part of it too.
So it's interesting because a lot of times we do a lot of suicide prevention. Like, here are the signs you should look for. And what I've read from suicide loss survivors is how painful it is to hear that, like, oh, well, I missed those signs.
Right.
And I can see, like, that would cause a feeling of guilt or a thought. I should have.
What if I didn't miss
Yeah.
those
What if
signs?
I had seen that or I missed it? So the guilt, I think, is a normal part of grief, how could I have changed the ending? Like, that's just a normal
Right.
part of, like, I guess some people would call it denial. Like, I could have changed this ending. And your brain goes around and around and around. And it replays because if I would have done this, and I just want to say to anybody who's dealing with that, it's not your fault.
Right.
You did not choose this and you would not have chosen this.
Right. Right. And that's the difficult discussion to have when you're dealing with suicide and you're talking to a suicide survivor, is that unfortunately suicide, it was a choice. Yeah. And you didn't make that choice. You would have made another choice for them.
You would not have made that choice.
No. No. And
And
you
so you cannot carry
no.
the guilt of that.
No. And if you don't keep that in check, then you could be in the same position that your loved one was in. I mean, you
Yes.
have to be very, very intentional. And you mentioned it. It's just, they're just small baby steps every day, trying to heal. When that grief hits you, let's say it's been a couple of years and you're just remembering some amazing times that you had with that loved one, or you see a picture that comes up on your phone or something that triggers that memory, and all of a sudden the grief hits you. You have to be very, very intentional how you're going to deal with that grief. Are you going to be depressed for the rest of the day? Are you going to allow it to basically control you, or are you going to get it under control? And you're going to be like, okay, because you've said this a lot with dealing with the loss of Reese, is that, and we've gone to some grief meetings, and the idea is, in a healthy way, deal with it and then move on for that day and get a good cry out. Man, I really miss.
Move forward, not
Move
move
forward,
on.
not move on. Yeah,
But
but move
let
forward.
yourself, like, if you're overwhelmed with grief, like, let yourself, sometimes I'll like set a timer, like, okay, I'm crying for 15 minutes.
Right,
And then I will intentionally distract myself. Like, I don't want to stay in this pit, but like, they call it dosing your grief.
right.
But I think one thing that has helped me so much is realizing that my thoughts are optional.
Mm.
And I mean, just that sentence alone, I think is so hopeful. And I hope that anyone listening to this
Motion detected in the side yard.
that somebody will, my thoughts are optional. And so in relation to guilt, you can go on and on and on. If I would have done this, if I would have done
No,
this,
it's never ending. Yeah,
it will never end.
right.
If I had been a better fill in the blank, this outcome would have been different. And that thought is optional. And I think part of healing is choosing a different thought. How do you want to think about this? And what is a true thought that you can think instead of allowing your mind to take you down that spiral of, it's a never ending pit.
Give an example.
So, for
What do you mean?
example, like, what would be true? Like a true statement, like, let me just give a parent who's lost a child to suicide. We make hundreds of decisions a day as a parent, and there's no perfect parent in the world. And I can only imagine how many questions a parent would have, if I would have, or blame. So the other side of that is blame. He would have, if he would have, if
Right,
that person had treated them better.
right.
You can go there. You can live your life there in guilt and blame, but it will lead to misery.
It will destroy you.
And
Yeah,
I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me.
right,
Um, so you can choose, for example, another thought that's true. You choose one that is true, that feels true to you. I did my very best as a mom.
mm,
And when those thoughts come, I should have, stop it, like take it captive, like at knife point, like, no, absolutely not. I did my best as a mom. Or, another true statement would be, he chose this for himself. And I wish it were different,
right,
but it was his choice. Think about some things that are like, I think about it like this, like, I can ruminate on thoughts that are all optional and they're all based in some belief. So if you can go back to what it is you're believing that's causing that and question that belief. Like, if you did everything perfectly, how do you know this wouldn't be the outcome?
right,
If you'd been a perfect, how do you know? You don't know.
right,
What you know, you get to choose what you set your mind on. So set your mind on something that is helpful to you toward your healing.
Do you
Is
remember?
that thought like helping you heal?
Right.
No, it's doing the opposite. So I
It's
would just
destroying you.
implore you to just examine the things you're thinking about, what you're setting your mind on, and choose something different.
Do you remember the mom that reached out to us that her daughter committed suicide, and the daughter had been using Death to Life resources for months, and the mom reached out. We hadn't heard from her in weeks, and the mom reached out to us and said, "I'm sorry to share this with you, but she ended up taking her life." And but the encouraging thing, and I think the mom needed to say this for us, and it gave her peace too, that we tried everything we could, and she utilized and she talked about how much of a blessing Death to Life was in her life, and the parents were very grateful
Yeah.
that she had Death to Life as a resource, because she does believe that it prolonged her life.
And I think
Um,
for the mom, it was healing to reach out and express gratitude.
right.
And she could have expressed blame, like,
Yeah.
Why didn't you save her?"
Right.
So I see that as like a mom who is being proactive in her own healing. Like, where can I express gratitude? And then we had to live with, like, we had to process that ourselves,
Right.
because the reality is
Could we have said something different?
right, we have resources available. We have suicide interventionists available. Like, we do our best. We do our best to intervene
Right.
when somebody's suicidal. If I know that I'm doing my best, I know I can't control all outcomes.
Right.
And
And that's
can
hard to admit. That's hard to admit.
accept that. Yeah.
Right.
Can I accept I cannot control all outcomes? And I think that's healing when we can accept that I can't control all outcomes, but I can move toward healing every day, whatever is helpful to me in healing. And I think one of the things is finding support, finding
Community
other
support.
suicide loss survivors, finding them. I do know of a good online forum where you can find other parents, other children. It's called allianceofhope.org. I do refer people there a lot because it is just that. And I know, as a bereaved parent, the first people I didn't want to talk to anybody except other bereaved parents. Like,
Mm.
because the depth of pain that's so unique, and you need to talk to somebody who knows what that feels like. So I think that if you can reach out and just connect with other parents or children or friends, that's healing. And attend to your own wounds. You are wounded. You're wounded. You're not mortally wounded.
Right.
You will survive, but you have to tend to your own wounds and allow other people to tend and allow God to tend.
Right.
God wants to help you heal.
I have a couple more,
Okay.
and but I think this was one that unless we'd been through losing a child, that I probably wouldn't really understand. But one of the first grief meetings we went to, I'll never forget when that woman was sharing that her son didn't her son end his life like 10 years ago, and she would talk about him all the time, and her friends would, they wouldn't necessarily voice them getting annoyed, but she could see that they were getting a little annoyed. And the mom was like, no, no, I'm gonna talk about my son. I'm gonna talk about the impact that my son has had. I'm gonna talk about how much I miss my son. This is a huge part of who I am. And what it did, in a very wild, weird way, she was normalizing, like, remembering him.
I think she said something like, "If you're not going to let me talk about my son, then I don't want to hear about your son
Yeah,
who's living."
yeah.
And
She
I
was
was like,
straight up.
"Oh, that was great." And I think sometimes you have to find the people who are not uncomfortable with that.
Right,
And unfortunately, it's not everybody. I mean, you need to find the people who let you do that and who listen,
right,
and because your loved one who died is important.
right. Will be until you die.
They, yeah, they had a important place in the world. very important. So talk about them as much as you need to and with people who will listen.
Don't ever get discouraged with that. Say their name, tell the stories.
Yes.
I mean, that was one thing that we had to tell our family, months after Reese passed away. And it was to encourage them, saying, guys, we want to hear your stories about Reese. We want to hear, the encouraging things, hummingbirds, flying all over the place. And we have a text chat with our family, and hummingbirds are a big part that we believe God is using, a little tool that God uses to encourage us.
Reese left hummingbirds.
And I mean, we get text messages from friends and family that send them to us. And I mean, that is such a comfort to us that, you know what? I'm going to normalize remembering them. When we go on family vacations, we take a little picture of Reese.
And I think that is really great to do too, is people in your life don't know what to do.
Right.
Um,
They think
and
they do, but they don't.
well, some people do, but a lot of people just don't know what to do. They think if I bring up this person's name, your loved one's name, is it going to make it worse? If I talk, like, what do I do? And so
Yeah,
if you can tell them, if you can have the courage to say, this is what's helpful to me, and tell them, like, I love it when you talk about my loved one, or I don't like it when you do this, I think the more compassion we can have for the people around us who really do love us, but just don't know,
right.
then we can just speak honestly, like, I love it when you do this. I need you to talk about them, things like that. I think that that's really helpful instead of harboring resentment, like, they don't ever do this. Well,
Well, assuming.
maybe they don't know.
Right.
So would you be willing to tell them?
Right. And that's what I said when we talked to our family. I mean, they didn't know. They're like,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I think we received that advice at our grief share
At a
group.
grief share. And just don't ever, I mean, in general, don't assume anything, because a lot of times those assumptions are lies. And don't assume that, hey, if I were to bring up, our child that ended their life, or it's gonna affect them in a negative way. It'll make their day not too good. And that is an assumption. And that a lot of the times that can be a lie. You got anything else before we close out?
I think one other thing I think I'd like to mention is that's unique to suicide is the question why.
Right.
Why did they do this? Why did God allow this? And I think it's okay for your mind to do that. I think that is a part of grieving to ask what, to struggle with that.
Go to God.
Yeah, and to ask God,
He can
he
handle it.
knows your pain and he's in it with you. But I think it's important to just acknowledge that, each person who dies by suicide has reached a point where they can no longer tolerate their pain and suffering.
Right.
And most people do not intend to leave a wake of people suffering behind them.
Right.
And they may not even be thinking about it. They may just be in so much pain. I like to describe it like if I like got into an accident and my arm was cut off and I'm bleeding, I can't think about anything else except for that pain and making it stop.
Right.
And I think about suicide, I think about it like that. And it helps me to see that person with more compassion and less, how could they? They were in so much pain and they were just searching for a way out of an unbearable struggle.
I've heard actual family members, parents that have said that have used this example of why their child ended their life, or a family member, a loved one. They were sick at the time. When somebody has cancer, it's the same exact thing.
Right.
It's not how things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that helped me understand a little bit more. Okay, you know what? You're right, because I mean, if it's a constant, your mental health is a constant battle. It can, and if you don't take control in your healing, it will spread like sickness. And yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was an interesting take, that they were just sick at the time, and there was
Yeah.
basically nothing. It was like a cancer. It was a stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing I could do or say.
It reminded me of this quote from Ron Rolheiser. He says, what needs to be said about all of suicide loss is suicide is a disease and the most misunderstood of all sicknesses. It takes a person out of life against his or her will, the emotional equivalent of cancer, a stroke, or heart attack.
There you go. Yeah.
And then he went on to say, suicide is an illness. And as with any sickness, we can love someone and still not be able to save that person from death.
Right.
And I just pray that anybody who's dealing with this can accept that there is sickness, and if you could have stopped it, you would have.
Who was it? Who was that? The actor, the Martin Short. Is it Martin Short?
Mhm.
And he lost his wife to cancer, and just recently his daughter to suicide. And he was being interviewed, and he said, "My daughter's sickness was just as life threatening as my wife's, and it took my wife's life. The cancer
Right.
did, and the
Right.
mental health and her depression and hopelessness was just as bad. Obviously, it was
Mhm.
stage 4." And I could see, but like, man, that would encourage me, to be like, there was nothing, not any money, not any amount of money could help. But I think the bottom line here, and like with anything in life, but in death in particular, especially with somebody that takes their life, is go to God and just be honest with them. Hey, I'm really, really struggling today. Hey, I need a savior today. I can't do this on my own. And make sure you're very intentional with your healing. I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, that is so critically important, and it takes baby steps.
Yeah, I wanna say one more thing about that. You know how I described the suicidal person, it's like they have a gushing wound, let's say
Right.
your arm is severed, and
Yeah, it's good.
if your arm is severed, how can you possibly think about somebody else? Like you're just like, I'm in so much pain. How do I stop this pain? And somebody said to me recently, and it was like such a healing thing they said to me. And I have lost a child. I've not lost a child to suicide, but I've lost a child. And she said to me, you have a huge wound. And she goes, I want you to picture somebody in the ICU in the hospital who has like 2 or 3 nurses attending to them because
Right.
they're in such bad shape. And she said, "That's how you are right now. Like, let God attend to you."
Right.
And so I
That's
would
good.
say that to you, whoever's listening to this and is suffering. And I've said this before, and it goes along with what Mario just said, is one of the most healing practices I do is just sitting with God and letting him love me. Like, I'm just sitting in your love right now and receiving it, receiving God's love, just sitting there and say, I need to receive your love and care right now.
It's
And a
good.
lot of times I'll have a journal open and just write down any thoughts that I feel like he's sharing with me. They're always healing, like, and they're not not what I would usually say, and so I know, like, God is attending to me in that way, but I think you need to allow God to attend to you. If you wanna picture yourself in a bed in the ICU, like, you need healing right now, and, like, let yourself be healed
Right. Well, that's
by
good.
God and by people around you. Um
It's good stuff.
I think like my tendency is like I want so badly to make meaning of my pain that I jump ahead. Like I need to make meaning. I need to help other people. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like you are still healing from a wound.
Right.
Like let God keep attending to you.
That's great stuff. Really good. Hey guys, if you're struggling today, you have somebody that you lost to suicide, please reach out to us at death2life.com. We have a ton of free resources for you. Our peer support, the people that do our counseling, a lot of them can understand. I mean, like I said before, not necessarily they've lost people. I know there are people that do our counseling that have lost people, loved ones, but they've all felt the pain and the heartache of struggling with their mental health. So we are a safe place, definitely for you. So I hope today this episode answered your question about how you can move on with life, about how
Move
you can
forward.
you can move forward. Yeah, yeah, you can move forward. But good stuff. Appreciate you, Carrie. That was good.
Why don't you pray for our listeners?
Lord, we just pray for those individuals right now that are going through crazy, crazy pain of losing a loved one to suicide. Lord, we are so sorry for the pain that those people are going through. I just pray for everyone involved in their family and their friends and in their community, that they'll get the help and the hope that they need to move forward. And in a supernatural way, you will encourage them and help them to realize that they are not alone and that they are loved big time. Lord, we just give you those individuals right now that are hurting, and we are grateful that you save and you love us. In your mighty, awesome name, amen. Love you guys.
Thanks for listening to the From Death2Life podcast. If you're hurting, losing hope, or barely holding on, reach out right now at death2life.com. Real people, real conversations, 24/7. And if you believe in what we're doing, partner with us through the Save a Life project. For just $30 a month, you can help sponsor 3 hurting people with life-saving support when they need it most. Visit joinsavealife.com. If you've got a question you'd like for us to answer on the podcast about life, faith, grief, mental health, or anything heavy you're carrying, email us at 411@death2life.com. Stay with us. Hope isn't dead. We'll catch you on the next episode of the From Death to Life podcast.